Have you come to a point where you're so lost in understanding the provisions of the law? Not because you can't decipher the words, but the words are so akin to each other, they almost appear all the same, if not conflicting. Our group will attempt to understand and explain 4 felonies with similar elements. It's almost impossible to differentiate one from the other, actually. And these 4 felonies are inciting to rebellion, inciting to sedition, tumults and other disturbances of public order, and unlawful use of means of publication and unlawful utterances.
Inciting to rebellion means an offender incites others to the execution of any of the acts of rebellion, and the inciting is done by means of speeches, proclamations, writings, emblems, banners, or other representations tending to the same end.
In inciting to sedition, the offender incites others to the accomplishment of any of the acts which constitute sedition by means of speeches, proclamations, writings, emblems, and etc.
In tumults and other disturbances of public order, an offender makes any outcry tending to incite rebellion or sedition in any meeting, association, or public place.
Unlawful use of means of publication and unlawful utterances. Offender publishes or causes to be published by means of printing, lithography, or any other means of publication as news, any false news which may endanger the public order or cause damage to the interest or credit of the state. Offender encourages disobedience to the law or to the duly constituted authorities, or by praising, justifying, or extolling any act punished by law, by the same means or by words, utterances, or speeches.
Now, if you can see inciting to rebellion and inciting to sedition here, they have the same elements. But what's the difference between the two? Well, in inciting to rebellion, the offender incites others to commit an act of rebellion, while in inciting to sedition, the offender incites others to commit an act which constitutes sedition.
It's important to take note here the acts of rebellion, which are to remove from the allegiance to the government or its laws the Philippine territory or any part thereof, or any body of land, naval, or other armed forces; to deprive the Chief Executive or Congress, wholly or partially, of any of their powers or prerogatives. The purpose of rebellion is always political.
These acts of sedition are: first, it tends to disturb or obstruct any lawful officer in conducting the functions of his office. Second, it tends to instigate others to cabal and meet together for unlawful purposes. 3. It suggests or incite rebellion, conspiracies, or riots. Or 4. Lend or tend to stir up the people against the lawful authorities or to disturb the peace of the community, the safety and order of the government. The purpose of sedition can either be political or social.
Now, let's go to direct assault at the first form. It says here that direct assault of the first form means that an offender employs force or intimidation for the attainment of any of the purposes enumerated in defining the crimes of rebellion and sedition. Did you understand that? Confusing, right? What it means in a simple language is that when any of the objectives of rebellion or sedition is pursued, but there is no public uprising in the legal sense, then the crime is direct assault of the first form. Now, let's go to tumults and other disturbances of public order.
In tumults and other disturbances of public order, an offender makes any outcry tending to incite rebellion or sedition in any meeting, association, or public place.
So what is the difference of this from inciting to sedition and inciting to rebellion? They look the same, right? Well, not really, because the outcry is merely a public disorder if it is an unconscious outburst, which, although rebellious or seditious in nature, is not intentionally calculated to induce others to commit rebellion or sedition, because otherwise it will become inciting to rebellion or sedition. Tumults and other disturbances of public order applies if the disturbance is not caused by a public officer, or if it is committed by a public officer, he is a participant therein. Now for the last, unlawful use of means of publication and unlawful utterances. Let's understand this better through example. Do you remember the time when a case was filed against the authors of the fake news item on Facebook that reported the purported police raid at the medical city where some pieces of personal protective equipment were allegedly confiscated? That is an example of a violation of the law on the unlawful use of means of publication and unlawful utterances. The difference of this provision from the previous ones we discussed is that here, there is no encouragement to disobedience to the law or to duly constituted authorities because there isn't any call to any action. And if there was, the accused can always argue that the authority was not duly constituted in the first place.